How's it going, guys? Mike Murtis, Gamer Logic, and today's video topic is video game sequels that amazed you and video game sequels that disappointed you. I'd love to hear what some of your thoughts and experiences are on this topic in the comments, as well as maybe even a video response. So let's start with one in a modern example for me, and that is Assassin's Creed. You know, Assassin's Creed had a lot of great ideas in it, but the execution always wasn't perfect. The character wasn't super likable, and there was just a lot of repetition in the game with a lot of the side missions. Well, then Assassin's Creed 2 came along and completely blew away everything that sucked about the original Assassin's Creed and just made the whole game better overall. Multiple weapons, a huge variety of side missions and things that you could explore. The character was super likable, and the storyline was just altogether much better than anything the original Assassin's Creed put out. I poured so many hours into Assassin's Creed 2 because it was just that much better of a game compared to the first one, and honestly is probably one of my favorite sequels for probably the last couple of console generations, in all honesty. Really love the game, a really great example of how a sequel can be done correctly and just completely overtake the original game in terms of quality. Now, what I'm hoping is I enjoyed Watch Dogs on this generation of consoles. I enjoyed it to a degree. There was a lot of things that had sloppy executions with it, and I'm hoping that with Watch Dogs 2, which is also an Ubisoft game like Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, is that now that the developers have had time to work with the engine, the graphics, the ideas, Watch Dogs 2 is really going to be like an Assassin's Creed 2. I can only hope anyway. That's my hope with that. So why don't we move on to some of my retro examples. Now this one is probably a favorite to many fans out there, and this is Double Dragon 2. This is a pretty famous beat-em-up, side-scrolling beat-em-up, brawler, whatever you want to call them. And I know there are a lot of fans of Double Dragon 2. And it was better than the original Double Dragon in a lot of ways. Two-player co-op, for example. Better controls, better gameplay, better graphics, great music. A great sequel, right? Well, as amazing as this was, you would have expected, hopefully, at least the same thing out of this game. And that is Double Dragon 3. Man, the first time I saw info, a review, an advertisement for Double Dragon 3, I was pumped because you had multiple characters you could select from, and that to me just sounded really, really cool. When me and my little brother rented the game, however, and we got our asses kicked the first 2 screens in and found out that there were no lives and that there were limited resources available, we were pretty upset. If this game was rebalanced, I definitely think it would be a better game overall. Even if it had a live system in it, that would be a lot better. But man, this is a really good example of a disappointing sequel that could have been great. And the sad thing is, folks, this is better than the arcade version of Double Dragon 3. The arcade version of Double Dragon 3 is a travesty compared to the original Double Dragon in arcade. And this is better than that. So try to imagine that. Now, one of my favorite video game franchises that seemingly I mention almost every video, and that is Castlevania. Castlevania, amazing franchise. The first game was awesome. Castlevania 2 came along and is so different that even though it's a sequel, it's hard to compare the two. The real true sequel to Castlevania 1 was this fantastic game right here, and that is Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Could you imagine if Castlevania 3 would have came out as Castlevania 2 over here? Man, I think that would have changed the perception of a lot of people's opinions on the Castlevania series, because I know a lot of people who stopped playing Castlevania right after they experienced Castlevania 2. They never gave Castlevania a chance again after that. But in comparison from Castlevania 1 to Castlevania 3, it took everything that was great about Castlevania 1 and made it even better. Multiple characters, branching paths, insane graphics, better music. Everything about the game was just so much fun. It was still difficult, but it was playable, and it had a password system. Castlevania 3 is easily my favorite Castlevania game on the NES out of the three, and definitely goes up there on my list of amazing sequels for retro games. Now let's go to another disappointing one. Actually, it's a little bit of disappointing, and it's a little bit of amazement too. Ninja Gaiden. This was the first NES game my dad bought me for my NES. We rented a lot of games and stuff, but this was the first one that he bought. And I'll never forget him giving it to me on an early Saturday morning, me looking at the cover and going, man, this looks so badass. Popping the game in, seeing the cinematic experience, and just the wonderful music, the great graphics, the tough but fun gameplay, right? How could you ever top something like this? Well, a few years later, we get Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos. We rented this game, and I'll never forget popping it into my Nintendo Entertainment System. Sitting there, and what loads up? That awesome scene of Ashtar looking over this mountainside, and thunder and lightning are hitting all over the place. And it would just set up this epic moment between what happened from the first game and the second game. And I was hooked right at that beginning cutscene, and hit start, and you're in the city again, and you're fighting a boss that's kind of like the first boss from the first game. Just really cool. The cinematics were awesome. Like I said, the music was there. You had the ghost ninjas that you could use, the two ghost ninjas. Just an overall, again, took a great experience from the first game and expanded on it even more. So I beat that game, and I was hungry for more. Man, wouldn't it be awesome if there was a Ninja Gaiden 3? I bet you that would be even more amazing. Well, Ninja Gaiden 3, The Ancient Ship of Doom, not so much. There were a lot of disappointing things about this one. You lost the ghost ninjas, the shadow ninjas. The story wasn't really super interesting. And the US version was balls hard. Just not even fun. No password system. You didn't have unlimited continues anymore, which you absolutely needed to learn the play mechanics of a Ninja Gaiden game and essentially memorize where all the enemies came from. Just wasn't there. And even playing it and completing it on the Super Nintendo version of Ninja Gaiden Trilogy and playing it with the revamped difficulty, it just wasn't there. Just so much of the goodness that was in the original Ninja Gaiden 1 and Ninja Gaiden 2 just did not carry over into this game. I think they just kind of milked it at that point, you know? So this Ninja Gaiden 3 is a huge disappointment for me for the series. And I mean, after that, Ninja Gaiden itself, the series took a weird turn. I mean, it came back in the mid-2000s and had some 3D games that were all right, but we've never really seen a great side-scrolling 2D Ninja Gaiden adventure, and I wish we would. But again, Ninja Gaiden 3, a good example of a sequel that disappointed the crap out of me. Well, guys, that's all I have for this video. Again, share some of your most amazing and disappointing game sequel memories that you can think of. Have a good weekend, guys, and I'll see you next week.